That was anticlimactic. After nearly 3 years of waiting, those of us who back the Fillow Menstrual Disc and Applicator finally got our shipments. I've had one period with it, so let's get down to my review. Hi everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Kim Rosas, and I'm a period products expert. I'm the owner of Period Nirvana, which is an online and brick and mortar menstrual cycle wellness store. We sell period products that are reusable, sustainable, plus menstrual wellness items like period pain relief and gifts. You can visit us in Asheville, North Carolina, which is where I'm filming from, or you can always shop us online 24/7 at shop.periodnirvana.com. And if you need help finding the right menstrual cup or disc for you, that's our specialty. You can take our quiz on periodnirvana.com or on our store. And if you're watching this, you're probably not subscribed, so consider hitting the subscribe button so you'll see more videos like this. I backed this project almost immediately. One of the things I've always stated is that if there's going to be a menstrual cup or disc applicator that's going to be successful, it's going to be a disc applicator. And I have tried a menstrual cup applicator, the Sunny Cup, and that project is somewhere, but I believe the Fillow Disc and Applicator is coming through, even though it took almost 3 years to get here. I backed it, I believe, in March of 2023, and here we are in February 2026. When they announced the Kickstarter, I think they were saying the product would ship in around October of 2024. So they knew it was going to take a while to get to the finish line, but the manufacturing problems and logistics were more than they expected, and I can tell you that that's happened to all of these different Kickstarters, including the Hello Disc Kickstarter. It happens to all of us. We're all optimistic, and then something happens. I always like to do a little unboxing. However, I've already unboxed this. I've already used it. I only bought one of each size, so I'm actually going to have to talk a little bit showing you the one that I used, but it's not stained and it is clean and sanitized. The packaging is adorable, and I opened it completely upside down when I got mine. Packaging is really cute, and I guess I bought a case. It's been so long, I don't remember. Case. I like this packaging. It's really easy to open, and there's no tape. It does kind of come out in a pile though. I love a good gradient. Gradient is really in right now with packaging, and you only get your applicator and disc in each package. You won't get a storage pouch unless you bought it. I have the storage case here, and it's just plastic. It snaps closed. It holds the applicator and the disc. This is what they look like when they're in the storage case. They have two sizes. This is the small that I have in my hand that has the tail. The large is 68 millimeters. This small and is 63 millimeters. So the difference in them is only 5 millimeters. And while that doesn't sound like a lot, it can make a small difference, although I would personally prefer to see maybe a little bit more difference in between the sizes. If their larger was larger, then I wouldn't maybe mind that the 63 is their small. The applicator that comes with each disc is the exact same size. So it doesn't matter if you got the large or the small, the applicator is the same, both in the width and in the length. So how does a product like this work? Instead of folding the disc and inserting it by hand, which you can still do with this model, you will fold it and insert it into a applicator. You want to make sure this part is completely centered, and I like to line the opening of the basket with the F because that makes sure I know when I insert it into my body that the basket part is facing me. Then you thread it. When you have the larger, you can only put the pusher in a smidge before it starts going out of the tip. So that's one frustrating part for me. And I also found that like you can kind of just start pushing this any which way, and then as you're inserting it, you're not sure if you have it in the right way, because at some point it needs to be directional as you push it in. So we are going to put this in, and you only need to insert the applicator tip is just a little bit. You don't have to go all the way up. And you can start inserting. We're going to angle it towards our back and deploy the pusher. At some point, you're going to feel some resistance from this pusher. And that's a sign that you don't need to push it anymore. And in fact, you can start removing it from your body as you continue to deploy it, and then you let go. And this is the tail. And as you can see, it is way too long for this model, and it is way too long for me. To remove this disc, if you keep the tail on, you can use that to drag it down out of your body and empty into the toilet. Because menstrual discs are suction free, you can remove by the tail that is attached to this. It's not like a menstrual cup where you have to break the suction. Because Fillow has 2 sizes, you can choose which one you think is going to fit best. For size guidelines, Fillow says if you have a high cervix or if you've had success with some of the larger discs like Nixit or Flex Disc, they'll tell you to pick their large. If you are someone with a lower cervix, they suggest the small, which is 63 millimeters. Also, if you have used other discs like the Salt Regular or the Cora disc. I like that their small is a nice in the middle of the road small. Maybe their larger could be a little bit larger, but I typically use a one size or large menstrual disc. I use the Hello Disc Most, which is 68 millimeters in diameter. The Fillow Large is also 68, but I can use discs that are 70 millimeters with success. So if that helps you make a decision on sizing, maybe that's helpful. The disc in my hand holds 61 milliliters. The size large, they say, holds 78 milliliters. I'm gonna guess that is measuring to the very tippy top in your body. It's gonna sit a little bit angled. So every single disc that says 50 or 60 or 70 or 70 something, it is going to hold slightly less because it sits at an angle. Now let's talk about my personal experience with this. I was lucky enough to get my period starting Valentine's Day this year. Luckily, on Valentine's Day, it was pretty spotty, so I actually just wore period underwear. Sometime overnight, things really kicked off, and the first thing I did in the morning was go and put the Fillow disc in. We're going to fold this. We're going to put it in here. I'm thinking I want the open part to go with the F. And see how this is a little crooked? I want this to be centered. And I don't want it coming out from this tip yet. It's like that. All right, do this. Okay, slow and steady. Oh, they said you'll hear it click. I didn't hear it click, but I felt it do something. It was a pretty easy breezy experience in most ways, especially if I compare that experience to using some of the other applicator products I've tried in the past. And I don't want to rehash everything, but I have talked about this universal menstrual cup applicator. I've used and reviewed positively the Disc Applicator. This does click all the way into place and stay put in place, the pusher. However, it is completely round and I have dropped it now multiple times. The only thing I like more about the Disc Applicator, it won't roll off because it is a triangle, but it is a larger diameter. Never forget the screw cup. Compared to some of my other experiences, this one was pretty easy. And I want to give credit where credit is due. The Fillow team spent several years tweaking and optimizing this disc applicator and the disc that comes with it, because what they were looking for specifically was low friction. The friction is very important because if you have to force whatever is going through and it has a high friction level, it's going to be physically difficult for you to push it through. Combine that with what I feel is some sort of vacuum effect with my own anatomy when I use any applicator, this disc applicator, the other applicator, the Sunny cup applicator. What has happened is it's like a vacuum that makes it also really hard to push because of some lack of air. Because when I do it in the air here, it's very easy, very frictionless. And I compare that to some of the other applicators I've tried. I do have a completely full video about cup and disc applicators that were on the market as of whenever I made that video. And you would need a lot of lubricant, buckets and buckets. And in many cases, you also needed lubricant because, I mean, come on. You can compare that to a super tampon, and it's not that much bigger. So when we're comparing all of those different products, this one certainly wins, and design concept and diameter and comfort. This is very nice and flexible and completely comfortable as well. The way this meets the plastic barrel is also soft. It's also very inspired by this little wavy connection where you have a softer product tip that goes with this harder plastic. Fillow did it better. This is softer and more comfortable. And another give credit where credit is due moment, the Fillow Disc Applicator was the first menstrual disc applicator design that was announced. And then very quickly after, Pixie came out with theirs. So whether it was already in the works before this announcement or they just worked harder, faster, more efficiently to get their disc on the market after hearing about the Fillow Disc Applicator, I'm sure I'll never know. So going back to my review, I think the frustrating part is you really do have to be very mindful of when you put it in, which way it's facing, and you won't be able to see it anymore. So you don't know if it's facing up or not. So definitely look at the F as your guide. Insert the disc with the basket facing up. That way when you put it in your body, you know it's going to be open up towards you. So my vagina is a vacuum. It does not like me pushing applicators up. And so I really had to push physically hard, not as hard as Sunny Cup, not as hard as that universal ginormous torpedo applicator. It does take a lot of like physical strength. I had this problem with Sunny Cup. This is not as bad as Sunny Cup, but this is not going in super easy. And I'm just doing it slow. My arm's sore. Okay. Done. So I was just kind of using it as it comes, which is part of my testing. After I inserted it, I just let it go. I'm not going to check that it's tucked. I'm not going to check that it's opened up or in the vaginal fornix. That's the point of an applicator. And it did work completely. I didn't have any leaks. My first day was frustrating because I had a lot of pain. I'm about to pull out this disc and I actually feel like I just rubbed something raw and it hurts so bad. And as I'm feeling the tail, because I'm about to pull it out, there is a line, like a very small ridge on this tail. And I can tell from where I'm sore that this little tiny line is the culprit. So I'm going to pull out the disc. Traction's a little difficult. Oh, there's multiple lines. It's just this one is the one that was hitting my labia. Break the string. I did have a mess-free removal, so that tail worked. I need to give myself a break. You see these 3 little lines? That was all it took to feel like there was a little razor blade cutting my labia. During their user feedback, it was a little slippery and people couldn't get it out, so they added grip. Somebody else commented on, maybe here on YouTube, that perhaps they should have done indentations versus raised grips. Not sure if that would be as grippy as raised grips, but it would certainly probably have been more comfortable for me. This is killing me. The disc works. It did not leak. I had like wiping leaks, but I can live with those. I just can't live with that like tail pain. The way they've attached the stem, it's very strong. Like the strength of this stem is many, many miles above a Luma stem, which this disc was directly inspired by, as you can tell. I'm gonna try maybe offsetting it. Instead of inserting it into the applicator straight, I would have maybe done it sideways so that the tail would, you know, drop down and it would just be, you know, hanging down a little bit because of my cervix length, you know, maybe like that. This is like, I think I might have to trim it. I wanted to try to keep the tail, and even one day in I can't. There's just no way, so we're doing it. And even trimming off a little bit was probably not going to be the move because I've tried other menstrual discs with tails. So I just trimmed it off completely. If I can feel this, I'll go in with some cuticle trimmers, and that should be able to get in between where that is, right there. Now I'm just gonna put it in like a normal disc without a removal aid because I can't deal with that. And it's just gonna have to be the way it is. I knew that would lead to messier removals, but it was better to have my sanity and my comfort instead of, you know, dealing with the mess, which is also not my favorite thing, but I can live with it. I could have tried like a gentle nail file and just filing the ridges down a little bit until they were flat, because I think I would be okay without the grip. So I continued to try the Fillow disc, still no leaks, very comfortable. It is on the firmer side. So this is a 4.5 firmness, which puts it on par with a flex disc reusable. It is almost the firmest menstrual disc you can buy. And this does help it go through the tube, and it just really gives it direction and intent, and it helps it glide through the barrel, which is fantastic for what the design is. In my body, because it was a 4.5, it was very difficult for me to auto dump it. In fact, I think I only auto dumped once the entire cycle on my very heaviest day. And I love auto dumping as a concept because on my heavier days, especially now that I'm perimenopausal and my periods are becoming heavier and heavier, I'm relying on auto dumping to not have like an actual accidental leak and just to have that peace of mind. I was actually like trying to auto dump it and I really couldn't force it until it was super full, and then I got the auto dump. If you don't know what auto dumping is, it's when your disc is sitting at an angle and you're seated and you push, and it gives just enough of a little push that it tilts, and whatever blood is there at capacity can leave the disc. Softer discs, I can auto dump basically on command. So if you don't like auto dumping and self-emptying as a concept, you might love this disc as just a disc because it is much harder to auto dump. I did kind of cheat on one of my later cycle days. I forgot to bring the applicator into the shower with me, so I am just gonna insert it with my hands because I can't leave the shower now. I'm wet. I will use the applicator tonight. I just put it in by hand, and that was also intentional. It is perfectly easy to insert with hands, as I would expect. Removals were messy. I had multiple very messy removals. One in particular stands out. Time to take out my disc, and today has been great. I took the tail off, so I don't have any pain. I've had really not any leaks, like maybe once I wiped and I thought I saw something, but I also did not auto dump, which means that my removal is probably about to be pretty messy. So that part is going to be less appealing to me. I don't like the sensory experience of that, which is why I do like the Fillow disc when it comes to removal better. Just let you see that now. That's like straight up Halloween gore. And it's on my counter. I don't think period blood is nasty, but I have some sensory issues, and that's why I love my Fillow disc. It does remove without ever getting blood on my hands. This Fillow disc was a whole other story, lots of blood on my hand. If you can remove your disc in the shower, if you're new to discs, that's the way to do it, because guess what? You don't have to think about it. It just is like this free zone where blood can go anywhere, and you can immediately rinse it off your hands even if you get it on your hands. It's great. My very last insertion with the Fillow disc, I'd wanted to try it with lubricant. I was having a hard experience pushing the pusher in through the barrel. One thing I haven't tried is adding a water-based lubricant. Pushing the disc through the barrel, it takes a lot of physical strength. And when you're thinking about applicators, the point is, you know, in a lot of ways to help people who have issues inserting menstrual discs, which could relate to hand strength or dexterity, and it being difficult doesn't help that problem. It's just switching one problem for another. So I've added a generous amount of lube into this barrel, and I'm going to insert the disc I don't think it's changing that much. It is a little bit easier, but I'm still having to like noticeably push hard. It did not solve that physical effort I needed. So again, I think this is my body. I don't know what day of my period this is, but I've worn the Fillow disc for 4.5 days. And I just took it out for the last time. Whatever happens after that is none of my business. The good news is the disc works really well and stays in place, and it does not leak. But overall, it worked, which is the most important thing. Would I switch to this option instead of like a traditional disc that I just fold in half and insert myself? No. The applicator works way better than anything that's come up so far, but it's still physically hard to push. So I'm letting everything dry, and that's the end of my testing. Applicators are sort of a controversial product because you have one camp that says you don't need an applicator, you should just be able to insert it by hand. And that camp is forgetting that there are some people who have accessibility issues or like short arms, larger fronts, and so getting to insert something into their body, they don't have the leverage. They need an extension of themselves and an extension of their fingers or their arms. Some people with a very high cervix would benefit from an applicator because they actually can't push it as high as it needs to go because their anatomy is just a little bit longer and they don't have the reach. You know, there are people who just truly cannot touch blood or don't want to be inside themselves. You're going to have to get through that on some level because of the way discs are. Even if you keep the stem of your Fillow disc, you're going to have to reach inside a little bit probably, and at some point you're going to have to adjust something. If by some chance the stem is out of reach for you, you're probably going to have to go even deeper to find the rim and remove it by the rim like you would a regular round disc. So there's definitely instances where that's going to happen regardless. That said, an applicator and the way this one is made, being a disc, which is suction free and somewhat intuitive to insert, and the fact that it has the stem, I'm not a huge fan of the stem. I think improvements could be made, but for now, this is the stem that's on it. And if you can successfully use it with the stem on, you have a very accessible product as long as you don't have a physical challenge to push the barrel in the way I did. But if strength is not the issue and there are other things at play, then I think this could really be a great option for people who have been unable to use most menstrual cups and discs because of an accessibility issue. And honestly, as an advocate for period products and reusable period products, anything that helps people get through the door, if it's not an accessibility issue, this applicator is like training wheels. You don't have to have it. You can still put the disc in by itself without this product down the line if that becomes available to you. And you just want to try a disc, but you're kind of not ready to insert it with your hands. There are a lot of folks like that. You can stop using this at some point. You can just forget it exists and just keep using the disc as long as you like the disc. It is a problem for people who need the applicator if they forget it at home. It is cumbersome to have to travel with the applicator everywhere you go. Most of us are only having to put in our disc 2 times a day. But if you have a heavier flow, you might have to do that more often. So you're going to have to remember, I need to wash it, I need to pack it, I need to bring it with me, I need to bring it not just with me in my bag, but I need to bring it with me to the stall, or I need to bring it with me into the restroom. And so that is like an extra mental weight that you don't have normally with menstrual cups or discs. And that's one reason I think cups and discs are more convenient. It's because you're always traveling with it. You never forget it. You don't need a lot of extra accessories. If you're using an applicator product, you're going to have to think about it. You're going to have to pack for it. And you're going to have to think about, how am I going to clean it? How am I going to store it? Fillow does have this, quite large case. You can stick your recently washed menstrual disc applicator in it. And since we're talking about washing, yeah, I'm not a huge fan of washing applicators every time I use it. It's, I'm already washing the disc. I get it. It's not that big of an extra lift, but I use menstrual discs for convenience. So if I were to pick, I would just never use an applicator because it's not convenient for me. But this product wasn't really designed for me. It was designed for people who need the aid. So I'm not the target audience. Now on to comparisons. This is the Fillow Large and this is the Flex Disc Large. The Flex Disc does have this easy insertion notch, but they are the same firmness. This is 68 millimeters, this is 70, and it says that the Fillow holds more capacity-wise, but I'm kind of finding that hard to believe. I need to measure that myself. This is the Fillow Large. This is the Hello Disc one size, 68. Fillow is firmer than Hello Disc. And Hello Disc does have the easy removal loop. You can wear it dropped or flipped or tucked. This one you can only wear one way, and it's just a long stem, but you can trim it if you don't need it. This is the small and is larger than the Salt Disc small. So this is smaller than the Salt Disc regular. This is the Fillow Large and this is the Poppins Period. Poppins Period is 70, this is 68, and this one is much softer and it has the removal handle. And comparing some apples to apples here, the Fillow Disc small with the stem attached and the Luma Disc medium, these are the exact same diameter. This is the Fillow Large, this is the Nixit, and Nixit is one size, 70 millimeters, so slightly larger Nixit than the Fillow, much softer, but they do have that similar double rim seal. What about the applicator? Will this work with other different products? I'm trying the Poppins Period one size. Poppins Period one size. It does fit, and with some force, it deploys. How about the Nixit? Nixit 70 millimeter, one size. It is also tougher to push through the barrel because it wasn't designed specifically for it, but it does exit. Luma medium in the Sea Spray. This already is hard to go through the barrel. Oh. A lot harder than Poppins Period, but it would still accommodate the stem if you keep the stem on. It seems like those really silky, smooth, textured discs go through a lot easier than something with a little more of a rough texture. This will be my first time trying, but a lot of people want to know, will the Hello Disc fit in this applicator? Oh shit. I might not be right about this, guys. It might actually fit. I'm not sure about how the best way to deal with that is, but it actually went through better than I thought. Could I just do that? Here we go. Holy shit, this is actually working. I mean, not well, but it's working. Let's try it again. Tucked. I wish this flared out more. I'm going to be honest. I think that if you're pushing really hard, it'd be nice to have more flare. Fuck. It goes into the barrel. Pushing it out is not seemingly working. I can pull it out, but I can't push it out. So even though I had like a slight glimmer of hope for a moment, I don't think the Hello Disc is really going to work in this applicator, even though it will fit inside the barrel. But obviously the best experience is using it with the Fillow Disc. And as of this taping, you can only buy the Fillow Disc and Applicator as a complete set. So you get either the small or the large and one applicator. I would like to see them offer at least an option where you can get both discs in one applicator, or even like just the disc or just the applicator. Let's say you lose one or the other. It doesn't make sense to have to purchase another $50 set, and $50 is a lot of money. It's at the very top end of most of the products that we sell, which are, you know, cups or discs. The most expensive singular disc is $42, which is Nixit. If you're using the applicator every single time, it would probably be worth some money to some people who want the convenience to have one downstairs, one upstairs, a purse applicator and a home applicator, something like that. So I call this a success. I think that a lot of thought has gone into it, and as someone who's done product design and development, I appreciate that thought, and I appreciate that they didn't rush out and just put it out as quickly as possible. They did a lot of user testing and feedback. I still think there could be room for improvement, but there's room for improvement on a lot of products. As soon as people start using it in the real world, even beyond your small test sampling, you find out a lot more than you did even with your sampling and your testing. So that's the case for Fillow Disc. There's things I would love us to improve on, and we are actively looking at possibly improving on. That's the case for a lot of the products I sell. There are things I wish the brands would do that I think would improve the products. Sometimes it's about cost, sometimes it's about logistics, that they can't do it or they didn't do it in the first place, even if they wanted to. Sometimes it's about patents. So you really never know what's going on behind the scenes. And it's always very easy, and I try to remind myself this because I've been on the other side too, it's always easy to offer unsolicited feedback, and you don't know why people made the choices they did, going back to manufacturing, logistics, patents, whatever. And I think they did a fantastic job with making something that will, I think, help a lot of people. And for some, it might be the training wheel experience, and for some, it might be the experience of what they need to physically insert the disc. And that's also a valid reason to use the applicator. I would absolutely love to hear what you guys have to say. If you've tried it, if you backed it, if you have yours, please leave a comment, let me know your experience, and any questions you might have about the product that I can answer here on the comments. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe for more content like this. Hit the notification bell so you find out when it goes live, and I will see you in the next video. Bye. This is a long ass video. Just in an hour. Holy shit. Oh my god. This is gonna be a nightmare to cut down. Okay, I think I'm done.